Welcome back to. I am so done. But anyway,
Welcome back to I Am So Done the game.
I am so done because the game at this point is just farting all over the story. I just like.
Oh no, Pedro. How about we get to the creme de la creme? Because we're about to get to a part where even some of the most die-hard of Final Fantasy XIII fans admit, yeah, the game blows at this.
Well,
for those who have played 13, you know what's coming.
Anyway.
Okay, one question. Does easy mode make what's coming, more bearable?
Oh, you're talking about the boss battle? Not really. It's not so much. Okay, see, the boss battle is okay. It's the primary problem with the boss battle is that it's a sponge. The boss is a gigantic sponge. It's not so much that it's hard.
I was wondering if easy mode hopefully alleviates that.
Not that I noticed. Well, this is my first time playing the game in easy mode, and I didn't notice any difference.
Alright, Waves, you're gonna see now Snow trying to actually rationalize and trying to break the indoctrination dogma that the PSICOM soldiers have been, given to.
Weird though, these guys are just different from the soldiers from earlier. They must be a different faction.
Mm-hmm.
How much are we going to explore that?
Who ordered the battalion?
Not at all.
Congrats, Roy.
Also, okay, crotch shot to Fang.
Teo, remember who directed this game?
I thought Lightning was the waifu.
Tried to get a face shot on Lightning. Get that? They had to do a crotch shot on Fang.
Teo, while Lightning will always be the one and true only for him, that doesn't mean he doesn't have eyes.
Well, okay, to be fair, Pedro, Lightning's face was close to Fang's crotch, so...
okay.
I was just focusing on Lightning's face.
If I recall correctly, this is gonna transition into a CG cutscene, or...
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Well, the thing is, Teo... Go on.
Why is Snow shirtless? He had a vest on underneath that jacket.
That's a good question.
Because the game forgot. No, see the thing is...
Or they just wanted that obvious shot for the ladies.
Sure. I mean, considering the rest of the fan service, let's add some, beefcake, why not?
It allows the fangirls to look at Snow's pecs. But anyway...
Okay, he admitted he's a lessee. Shoot him, I guess?
I'm a monster? I'm flesh and blood, like you. An ordinary citizen of Cocoon.
Okay, he said ordinary citizen Cocoon. He didn't say enemy Cocoon, so it doesn't count. No, but that's the thing, Teo. About the cutscenes in this game, that's the thing, Teo. Even though the CG cutscenes are obviously pre-rendered, there are actually some pre-rendered cutscenes in this game. A lot of cutscenes in this game are pre-rendered. It's just that they use the in-game graphics. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. All right, Weaves, you're gonna get the moment that I mentioned before.
I understand your plight. However, the Pulse threat is not so easily dismissed. The very existence of Ulysses puts every
evidence of that?
in danger.
Well, that's the thing, Weaves. This entire summation that Yaag Rosch is actually giving to Snow is that, oh no, we on the higher ups, we know, we just don't care.
Not just that, Dibs. The Fal'Cie told them that that's how it is. Remember, because they have to obey the Fal'Cie.
Safe and knowledge. Remember, the entire point also is that this system is fucked up, intentionally fucked up to the core. The sad part is just that the game is conveying it poorly.
Your lives are forfeit.
I really don't get what they were thinking with Yaag Rosch, though. Like, one minute he's supposed to be the representation of how broken the system is. Other scenes will suggest that he's actually one of the few proper lights left in the system that actually thinks straight, so...
Yeah, the game tries to, like Choba just said, right now with this current thing that he just said, the game will try to do this thing where...
I also don't understand this bit. Supposedly the cavalry sends in these smoke signals so that the heroes can get away and everything. But then, like, they get, like, attacked and shot by someone else?
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, Yaag almost gets shot, but trust me, he doesn't really get injured by this.
Yeah, trust me, but then Trust me, this will not matter. The next time we see him will be rather like nothing happened. I don't even know what the hell that's.
No,
guys, I got it. Since it was Agent 47 in disguise, he did the thing and killed everybody around him, including his target.
But no.
Basically,
and Square Enix owned the Hitman at the time, so...
And basically, what will be left to do is for you to handle with the air transportation unit.
Alright, we'll get to it. Hold on,
yeah.
The point
But now
is...
it's time for a tearful scene of Hope having to go away from his dad because, in order to do this, they don't want their dad to get dragged into it. So make it look like he was their hostage.
Basically, yeah. Since we haven't, since we don't really haven't given any time to really get to know him, this scene kind of falls flat on for me.
By the way, we'll never see him until the very end of Lightning Returns. He's a small flash, but it's basically a bit of ball throwing to Hope. We do know what happened to him thanks to novels. At the very least, they had the courtesy of telling you some kind of fashion what happened to him. But game-wise, he basically just disappears.
Yeah, basically.
You know what's even worse? With this, Hope's arc is now effectively complete.
Yeah, basically.
After this, Hope doesn't really get to do much except for when...
Anyway, let me just... like Jova said, they tried to do that thing with Yaag Rosch where he just... do you think we want to purge our own people? Trying to imply that he does it even though he doesn't actually like it, but he has to do it because it's orders. But the game never really goes anywhere with this. The game, trust me, that character is barely on screen anyway, so it's not like it matters. Whatever. Yeah, like Jova said, this boss is bullshit because it's a fucking sponge.
I would like to remind, because we have seen this vehicle in the past, in previous cutscene, and all it needed to be done to take him down was just, either a single missile from a rocket launcher, or a couple of bullets from the airship that Sazh was piloting. But as you will see, for some reason, this specific battle, taking him down by foot, even with the powers that these Lessie possess, it's gonna be kind of a chore. And it's kind of a shame because like I mentioned in the past, I am a sucker for boss fights that have multiple sections that you need to systematically destroy in order to damage the main body, which this fight is supposedly about,
Alright,
The sponginess of the boss makes it just a pain during
Pedro, before you get into your speech, there's also some other things I want to mention. For some odd reason, this one has the same boss theme as the Eidolons. Specifically,
the last
thing that is called Eidolon, which is weird. Yeah, I know, but it's again, the fact that the theme is literally called Eidolons just makes it weird that they pass around that boss theme to other bosses. Don't get me wrong, it is a contender from... don't get me wrong, I love the music track and all, but it's weird with how they arrange or place the music here and there. But this boss is so infamous that even the most diehard of Final Fantasy XIII fans admit that this boss fight sucks. Hell, on YouTube videos of the track itself, you'll see at least 50% of people talking about how this boss fight sucks. That's how bad it is.
Also, the camera, Jesus Christ.
Alright,
Sorry, go on, Pedro.
Alright, everybody, let's talk about the development of Final Fantasy XIII. Basically, the development of Final Fantasy XIII has a lot in common with the development of Sonic Forces. I will elaborate on that. Okay, so... This game, believe it or not, was actually originally meant to be a PS2 game, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
However, when Square noticed how awesome the response was to the Final Fantasy VII PS3 tech demo in 2006, they decided to shift development to the PS3. So, okay.
So you're telling me that Square's overall response to the positive reception of a potential 7 remake was to create what would eventually become the bane of the franchises?
Yes, reputation.
That is so poetic.
Well, like we've said before, Jova, it's apparently clear that the developers wanted to move forward and try to eliminate the need for a 7 remake.
Because these to be the new Final Fantasy
it's abundantly clear that Kitase just wasn't interested in revisiting 7. He just wanted to move forward and not have to remake something he already made. But whatever. The point is, the development moved onward to the PS3. With that came also Square Enix's new engine, the Crystal Tools engine. This engine was actually made specifically with linear design in mind, which explains why the game is the way it is. Also, here's the interesting thing about the Crystal Tools engine. It was made to support Final Fantasy XIII, Final Fantasy XIII 2, Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII, Final Fantasy Type 0, Final Fantasy XIV, the OG, and is still being used to this day to support 14.
Actually, it's not Crystal Tools, that one. It's the Luminous engine.
So now it's the Luminous engine again? Okay, fine. In that case, the point is, Crystal Tools was supported for the 14 1.0. And also and originally it was also going to support Final Fantasy Versus 13, which eventually became 15, but that never came to be. Oh, and it also was meant to support Dragon Quest X because why not at this point, right? So yeah,
that's a very Bethesda type of move. Don't go there. Well, that and EA as well.
So yeah, the basic point is, this engine, of course, was basically demanded a lot. And what happened was, the developers now ran into a big problem. They had to create a new Final Fantasy HD game on the PS3, which was a very hard platform to develop for, combined with the fact that the Crystal Tools engine was also a complete new set of tools that they had to learn how to work before they couldn't even have development progress smoothly. That meant that for a good 2 years, they basically progressed exactly zero in development. So, what happened? I'm not kidding you, by the way. Throughout at least nearly 3 years, the developers didn't actually do anything because they had no idea what to do with the game. How does that mean? Okay, and it says right here. The first problem with Final Fantasy XIV's development, a lack of a vision. Final Fantasy XIV was first, and this is from Toriyama's words, Final Fantasy XIV was first introduced for a concept trailer shown alongside the announcement of in 2066. The trailer was merely a visual concept, and we had not yet created anything playable at that point. I felt that this trailer set the bar for the quality we were aiming to achieve in terms of battle speed and cutscene imagery, and believed that this sentiment would be shared by the rest of the team. However, it became clear that at the time, there were actually very few members who saw the trailer as a representation of what we wanted to achieve with Final Fantasy XIII. The lack of a shared vision became the root of many conflicts that arose later in development. So, and here's the primary, what is, in my opinion, the biggest development problem of this entire game. There was no bloody vision behind this game. But anyway, cutscene now, I'll continue later.
Surprised you beat that boss way quicker than you did in our original playthrough.
Well, I didn't.
Sped up.
Well, I was.
And there's another one.
Another one.
I was expecting to be able to start right at the beginning of the boss battle.
There's no end to
Yeah, exactly fine.
But don't worry, because conveniently the cavalry has some help.
Literally.
I'll just quote what Pedro said in our original playthrough. Where were you, idiots?
Yeah, where were you? Wow.
I get the idea they were supposed to be the ones who did stage the coup, against Yaag Rosch, but it looks so confusing.
And guess what? Guess who's in this game? The Winter Soldier's in this game.
I did compare it to Viggo Mortensen during his first appearance, but yeah, it also looks surprisingly like Bucky.
Wow. Let's see, this game was released in 2010.
2009 in Japan, 2010 in the West.
So it was a bit before the Winter Soldier, but...
No, this was even before First Avenger, period, so...
To be fair, he does kind of looks to like Bucky in the comics, so...
Sure.
Applies.
Sure.
And so Hope has to split from his father. Why are you narrating?
Again,
honestly, I'm gonna agree.
Why isn't Hope narrating?
Honestly, I'm gonna have to agree with Tio overall. How much better would it have been if we at least, when a character's arc is capped off, we hear the character themselves narrate and look back on it. It would also
reinforce the mechanic of this team as people who hate each other actually coming together.
Okay.
Instead, all this seems to suggest is that Vanille was their theory.
Hold on.
Leaves, we're in a theme park. Do you want to have fun?
Not fun allowed.
Denied.
Two things. One, he never gave me a chance to answer the question. And two, Pedro still has some stuff to talk about.
Can you answer the question, though?
To be honest, I'm not really fond of big rides at theme parks. So.
The point that they're trying to make is that this is supposedly this game's gold saucer, and there's nothing to do in here once again. Okay, so I can basically recap what happens because the rest of this part, barely anything happens in this part, so don't worry, I can just recap it quickly later.
Go ahead.
The
I
basic...
just want to point this out. For some reason, we're in a city named after Captain Nemo's ship. Why?
Because...
I can tell later. First of all, Pedro, go ahead.
Here comes the cavalry, indeed. Okay, keep an eye out for enemies of Cocoon in these texts. But anyway, okay.
Enemy is not the government.
Okay, so this, of course, highlights the first, in my opinion, the major problem with the development of Final Fantasy XIII. Never at any point did Toriyama sit down with the team and elaborate and pitch to them exactly what they were going to do with this game. I'm not
kidding. You're telling me that they spent this entire development not really knowing what the overall big picture was?
Exactly. Apparently, and this is by Toriyama's very own admission, like I just read. It's not like I'm imagining things or misquoting. I'm literally reading what he said in the, as it calls it, the 2010 October issue of Game Developer Magazine, which had an interview with him. But anyway,
how did this game even see the day of light then?
Because Jova, we needed a new Final Fantasy game because it's Square Enix's cash cow. But anyway,
like with many other games, Jova, the investors at some point are gonna push you for a release date.
Yeah.
Yeah, but damn, go on, Pedro.
The basic point is yes. Yeah, so as you can probably guess, the game was already doomed from the get-go because our supposed team leader, Mr. Toriyama, never at any point thought it was a good idea to sit down with the entire team and tell them, okay, so here's what the game is going to be, what we're going to express with the story, and what kind of gameplay systems are we going to have. No, never at any point did he ever actually tell anybody what they were going to do.
Okay, now to be fair, there have been cases where sometimes products have had to have been made literally on the fly as it's going. Look at Mission Impossible, a movie that literally had to be rewritten and written on the fly, and that movie turned out to be phenomenal. So, what else went wrong with this game that pretty much guaranteed its destruction?
Combining that with the fact that the PS3 was notoriously hard to work for, plus they had to basically relearn game development because the Crystal Tools engine was like a completely new thing for them. It says right here.
Wasn't this like the first the first Final Fantasy game made for the Xbox as well?
Well, the Xbox 360 version came later. That version only came later in development. Forgot most of the development, it was meant to be a PS3 exclusive. So basically, Jova, by the time they added the 360 version into the equation, it was too late to rework the game to make it better on an easier platform. By that point, it was too late, basically. The point is, okay. Square Enix's multi-platform engine Crystal Tools, which added an extra layer of complexity to an already demanding project. And here's his actual quote. Another issue was the Universal Engine, because we were so focused on creating an engine for next-gen hardware that could be utilized across all platforms, we made the mistake of trying to accommodate every single project that was in progress at the time. In hindsight, it should have been obvious that it wouldn't be impossible to fully satisfy all those needs. In hindsight, it should have been obvious. Why wasn't it? As a result, we spent a considerable amount of time prioritizing all the different requests. So basically, the Crystal Tools engine was also a primary reason why the game, this turkey, took so long to get shit out of Square Enix's ass. Because for the first 3 years, they basically progressed barely anything development-wise. However, then we hit 2009. What happened in 2009? The Blu-ray release of Adventure Incomplete came out, and in the Japanese version of that Blu-ray, they actually came with if you put that Blu-ray on the PS3, you would be able to play a Final Fantasy XIII demo. So yeah,
oh boy,
that demo was actually all that the developers were able to get together, as in the battle system. Basically, it just has the first boss battle of the game, that big scorpion-like thing.
Does it even have any story with it, or
no.
is it literally just...
I haven't actually taken that much of a look at it, but from what I saw, it's basically just the first battle of the game, and that's it. It was basically just a demo for the battle system, and that's it.
How funny would it have been if people mistook that as for being part of a remake of 7, because again, scorpion battle. Though
yes.
People would probably wonder why Cloud suddenly has boobs.
Okay, so, according to Toriyama, here he is, realizing a shared vision for the demo. Even at a late stage of development, we did not agree on key elements. Even at a late stage of development, we did not agree on key elements of the game. Brilliant. Which stemmed from the lack of a cohesive vision, the lack of finalized specs, and the remaining problems with communication between departments. However, what enabled us to conquer this line of seemingly endless conflicts was the development process for the Final Fantasy XIII demo, which was included in the Japanese. The demo was not in our original plan, so we had to make adjustments to the overall schedule to accommodate it. So basically, making this demo took even more time out of the development of the full game. Whatever effects created in the demo. However, according to Toriyama, this demo basically finally gave them a goal to shoot towards. So finally, now, 3 years into the development cycle, do they actually have a basic idea of what they want to actually do with this game, basically.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Rare admitting that they don't even know what Everwild is supposed to be yet as a game.
Not just that, but okay, Shiroi, now I can elaborate on your question. See, Shiroi, the reason the soundtrack is the way it is probably... The reason that theme plays so much, like you observed, is probably because Amazu probably had little to no idea of how the game was going to be in its finalized form, and as a result there wasn't that much you could do in terms of composing new music, because most of this game was put together at the last year or so.
Does this also apply to the story?
Yes. Well, remember, Jova, the problem with... Yes, this also has to do with the development of the story, yes, actually, but I will get to it later. For now, let me just mention one more thing. There's also a big problem involving... like Jova said, well, actually, no, I guess we can get to the story now. Yeah, basically, actually, no, I remember what I was going to say, sorry. Well, here's what happened. You probably realize the main reason the game is as linear buttfuck as it is, and compared to the fact that a lot of times it seems like plot points peter out, or the plot feels inconsistent or incomplete, is because, again, the game actually had a shit ton, and I do mean a shit ton, of deleted content. Basically, by the time they were told by the investors, like Teo said, that they had to release this game at some point, basically the developers decided that the developers were forced to basically cut out any content that was left unfinished and just try their best to come up with something that was something even resembling coherence. And that's basically, Joe, to give you an example, the art director, years later in an interview, said, and I quote him, "We had enough cut content to make another full-blown game."
So, I'm wondering, is this a case where the cut content really could have helped the game, or is this a case where their loss was our gain?
We don't know, Jova.
We knew at some point they had in mind a DLC episode to attach to the game, but it wasn't. But as far as we know, it wasn't going to be anything particularly substantial. But we do know that 13.2 used a lot of the assets that they did cut away, so
basically,
that doesn't surprise me.
The basic gist of but see, the thing is, Jova, it's kind of one of those things where they had a lot of ideas, supposedly cool ideas, to put into the game, but they had to delete most of it because there was no time to actually realize all of it. So they had to basically just, find a way to somehow pick up all the scraps and somehow make a coherent game out of this. Basically, as a result, the final part that we're playing right now was basically built over the course of a year and a half, basically. Combined with that, Jova, now let's talk about the story. This also explains why the story is the way it is. Because the content of the game was always changing on a regular basis, because they had to constantly rework how the game was, as a result, the plot had to be adjusted towards it. That meant, Jova, that the plot had a total of... Well, we don't know the exact number, but there's like a bajillion different drafts before we ended up with this script. So basically, Joe, what you have here is a script that went through multiple revisions because of the game content forcing those changes, basically. And that's why the story feels like a mess, because much like with the rest of the game, most of the time the developers had to adjust the story to fit the mess of the game that the story was tied to.
So what you're saying is that essentially, as they proceeded, they would have to adjust the story along with development.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why the story, that's why so many events in this story feel so contrived, because they have to happen. Maybe there were earlier versions of the script where maybe the deleted content that we never get to saw may justify certain things better, but again, we never got to see any of that, so, and we will never be able to see that, so it's only speculation at that point. So, And that's explains the story. As for the localization, yeah, we've already talked about how bad the localization in this game is, and I've already explained in certain aspects, like the Nora pun, for example. Here's the thing.
Oh my god, they literally cut out there!
Yeah,
like,
their model just popped out.
Before the cutscene went to...
Keep in mind, everybody, I'm trying my best to keep this crappy PC port together with as much duct tape as I was able to find from fans, so...
You're seeing that in some cases, some of the shading is not working as intended.
Yeah, trust me too. I'm using like a total of like 7 mods on this thing to keep this thing.
No, I'm fine. Don't worry.
Like I trust me, Taylor. There's only so much you can do with this.
Dodge is now a Sanctumlessee, a sworn enemy of his father.
You know what? You know what? Fuck it.
Being an enemy of Cocoon.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm counting that.
Well, I can answer your question in the meantime, Jova. It's more of a reference to the animal itself, because Nautilus is supposed this game's version of Nautilus. While it wasn't conveyed immediately, it's basically kind of an island. It's actually an island floating in the sea. It's kind of like a giant boat, you know. So it's a reference to a mollusk that normally, chambers inside air to propel itself. Sazh and Vanille need to use a boat to get here.
But yeah. So, Jova.
Oh, wait. Actually, didn't they just sneak in through the fence to get in here?
But we needed a boat. We were waiting at the dock. Go ahead, Pedro.
So, yeah, already, with everything that I've already told you guys, this development history is a fucking mess. But what's the fun in stopping here? We can make this even more of a mess! Okay,
wow.
So, okay, guys, think about this for a moment. Obviously, since the script changed multiple times, obviously the localization would have to basically restart things from scratch over and over as well.
Of course, I mean, if only to help it, flow naturally.
So basically, everybody, the localization team, every time they would think about this from their perspective, they were localizing the game, and then suddenly they would get a mandate from the Japanese headquarters. By the way, we're completely changing the script, so you guys are gonna have to throw everything out and just start from scratch. And with this new script, we're gonna send you.
All right, Leaves, you're about to get some lore via CG cutscene.
All right, go ahead.
The show is starting. Look.
And I guess something about the show causes Vanille to have,
Kind of.
Oh my god, discs fall from the sky! Sure hope that those don't actually come into your necks!
That is a dangerous health and safety hazard. What if something goes wrong with the disc and decapitates somebody?
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all just so you can cast
Siren.
holograms.
Basically, this is one of the small moments of fan service, because some, recurring elements from the saga do appear here, just because.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the lassie, the red bit coming in and burning everybody.
Kinda. It's more of a case of, again, the war between Pulse and Cocoon that raged all those centuries ago.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ifrit.
Okay, you know what? I don't mind. It's actually one of my favourite forms of lore exposition. Delivering it as like a really cheesy play.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit in this case,
well, remember that's what
it has a lot of high production value.
That's what Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of did with that the Ember players.
Ah, yes, the Ember Island players.
Yeah.
One of the best ways.
That was more a recap than.
I guess, sure, yeah, true.
With Ramu.
It also works from it also is one of the better cutscenes of the game, period, because it showcases the propaganda that Cocoon Falsi have against Pulse. Basically, they do their best to demonize Pulse as much as they can to basically force their agenda on the people.
And here comes Ragnarok.
And like, no, that's not how it goes at all.
I forgot which creature returning. I think it was Garuda.
Well, that's exactly the thing, Devs. The reason she's so distraught is because she knows that this is not true. This is propaganda.
No. What I think is great is that she accidentally blurts out that that's not how it goes at all, and then everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, she's a Pulse person, kill her."
So yeah, pretty visuals, and some lore. Oh yeah, here we go.
Sometimes I had to wonder. Could our deaths
Stop your pretentiousness, Jesus Christ!
So subtle.
I thought-
So
I thought-
subtle.
I thought she was going to say, God, that Ragnarok looked terrible. Oh, Ragnarok looks nothing like that.
Okay, so
See, now that's what Carbuncle was supposed to look like.
alright, before I finish up my history of development, allow me to recap what happened in the story in between. Basically, Vanille's sad, and Sazh is trying to make her feel better. There you go. That's basically what's happened so far.
It's kind of a reverse situation of the Gold Saucer. You can clearly tell they know the story of Seven and want to reverse that, because in this case it's not the black guy who's actually sad and needs to be cheered up, but instead, another character, and he's supposed to be the guy to cheer up.
Basically. There you go. See? Look! His brand is in plain sight, and yet somehow...
How has nobody been able to see that when they're on such a high sea scare?
Not even just the people. Again, Cocoon is a system where you think we will have cameras all over the place. And now, yes, I know there is a specific reason why they don't seem to get caught like this easily. That will be explained later. But for all intents and purposes, a player should be still asking questions at this point.
Yeah.
But whatever. Go on.
Basically, Jova, like I've already said, the localization team had basically had the rug ripped right from their feet multiple times because of the constant script changes, right?
Right.
So this alone would make the task of the localization team a nightmare, right? But what if I had even one more problem to assert?
Sure, why not? Let's douse some more gas on the spot.
Okay, so here's what happened. For whatever reason that I have yet to understand, the executives at Square thought this is going to be the next big Final Fantasy game, so we have to try our best to keep things secretive and not allow any leaks or spoilers out there. So...
Oh no, don't tell me they did the Armageddon 2001 thing.
You'll have to listen.
Essentially...
Jova is referring to changing a critical plot twist for something else because information had been leaked, but I don't think that's the case.
No, that's not the case. What happened was, Jova, basically, that meant that the executives wanted the crucial plot points and the overall most of the story of this game secretive, even from a lot of people within the company, and that included the localization team, which meant, Jova, that throughout most of the...
Oh boy, that's...
I know, right? And this meant, Shiroi, that throughout most of the localization process, the localizers were only given individual scenes to translate. They weren't given any greater context. They weren't given the full script to see how all the events play out, and as a result, they had to basically just wing it and just translate the best they could. Combine
two things about that.
Yes, Shirei?
Yeah.
They're willingly shooting themselves in the foot, and B, do you not have NDAs that people sign to not tell anybody else this crap? Outside the company?
It's interesting, right, Shirei? But here's the thing. Yes, so basically, Shirei, combining the Japanese script changes with these secretive aspects of the story, basically, the localization team was basically caught between a rock and a hard place, and that's why the localization of this game sucks, and that's why I'm definitely going to give the localization team a get out of jail free card, because how do you even localize a game in these conditions? Exactly.
That was genuinely frustrating to work on.
So let me seriously get this straight. They went pretty much 4-dimensional chess with trying to keep things secret by not only having to constantly change up the story, which by extension changed the localization, but they divided the localization team into teams, not based off of, say, certain categories in the story, but more just based off of sections of the story.
Yes.
Which meant that they probably had to play games of telephone to even make ends meet with these certain sections. No wonder so many of these cutscenes don't even fit with one another, or literally shoot others right in the back.
That's the reason.
The localization team were literally working alone. Go on, Pedro.
That's the reason why, Jova. Very good. And see, remember that sequence that I brought up where Snow is Sarah is supposed to say, "Oh, the fire, God, what's the name of the part, like when Snow and Sarah are having that date, and they're watching that thing in the sky, and then Sarah's like, oh, it sounds so beautiful. And in the Japanese script, Snow is supposed to say, let's see them again next year, as in a way to say, I'm totally going to cure you from your lassiness, so we will be able to. Again,
we'll get through these essentially.
And in the English version, he instead just says, all I need is you, which again makes no sense in that context. And like Brando theorized in his review, probably what happened was that the Japanese script said that line at some point, but again, it got changed somewhere in the midst of this development at some point. And somebody lost the plot at some point, and not that I blame them. And guess what? I have one more.
What?
I have one more before we finish.
Oh,
So combining all of the, oh yeah, and by the way, as a final epitaph to the localization team, eventually, by the way, believe it or not, Joe, at some point Square Enix realized that the localization was a mess. However, it was too
you think?
And however, it was too late to course correct, so all they could do was basically just wing it and try to fix it in 13.2, which to their credit, 13.2 is a much better localization. That doesn't explain why the hell the Lightning Returns localization is shit too, but that's a topic for another day.
Holy cow. Is there anything else we're missing on the development of this game?
Just one more thing. Okay, so what happened was, as a learning experience, they basically decided, okay, let's just... Oh, and by the way, because of the Rush development, they couldn't even make an English version of the theme song. They had to license out a Leona Lewis song. So that in itself also shows you how rushed this game was out the door, despite not looking like it. You see?
Okay.
So, yeah. Combined with that... Oh, by the way, Shiro, you're probably thinking, what about playtesting? I mean, considering how rushed this game was, basically, Shiro, guess what?
Was there none?
According to Toriyama, feedback from the playtester, from the Western playtester... Oh, yeah, by the way, did I mention that the developers took the we want to appeal to a Western audience pill? And as a result, they basically made a lot of decisions based on what would appeal to Western people instead of just making a good game. Basically, as a result, there was a lot of playtesting from Western players made by Square Enix of America. Here's the problem. By the time the playtesters gave their feedback, it was already too late to course correct based on that feedback because they had to get the game out the door. And as a result, any playtesting that was done, any feedback that the playtesters gave, was not implemented into the game whatsoever.
Joy.
So they wasted everyone's time.
So essentially, this was the equivalent of them putting their fingers into their ears when the localization team said, "This is madness. We have to pause this. We have to pump the brakes on this. We can't release this monstrosity." They went, "La la 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 la. I can't hear you. La 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 la. The Western folk will eat this up because we know what they want better than the actual Western folk. La 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 la. They should have respected Final Fantasy Mystic Quest."
Funny, Joe, but that's exactly the same logic Hudson solved that with Act Zero.
So yeah, and while all this is going on, most of the developers are just on the middle of a firing room with a cup of tea. This is fine. This is fine.
And,
perfect image to sum up the development of this. But yes,
and the cherry on top. This out of all the games that released in 2010 for Final Fantasy, this surprisingly did not have the most troubled development of the games released in 2010. Believe it or not.
Yeah, 14.0, but that's a topic for another day. So yeah, everybody, that's the reason why. If you ever wondered why Final Fantasy 13 sucks so much, there you go. Now you know why. Because there was no way a good game would have come out of this. There was just way too many factors working against the developers. Way too many. And first of all, and while it is true there were a lot of factors, I'm going to point at Toriyama as the primary responsible. Why? While it is true that a lot of complications came in that were out of your control later, what the fuck were you thinking? Not actually sitting down with your team and basically outlining for them what the game was going to be. Like, seriously, who does that? Like,
Toriyama.
You're supposed to be the team leader. You're supposed to tell your team what they're supposed to be making. Like imagine if I okay, Jova. Imagine if you're conducting a symphony, but you don't give any of the musicians the what's the name, the
music
sheets. So they're just supposed to play without even knowing what they're supposed to be playing. That's basically what they've done here. Mr. Jova Haxian, what are we supposed to play again? Like,
I told you, we're playing the song Frankenstein.
Okay, where are the sheets? I don't know the notes.
You're telling me that you didn't memorize it, even though I never told you what we were doing before? Preposterous.
It's, again, there was no way. So yeah, even if the multiple factors that came out later didn't happen, this game would still have sucked, because how would a good game come about if Toriyama never at any point figured out, what game are we supposed to be making again? There you go.
We're totally making Final Fantasy VIII, right?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of why Final Fantasy XIII sucks so much. There you go.
Joy.
Alright, see ya.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.